Hi. I wanted to do a quick mixed review here. I do so many glowing reviews on my channel, you guys must think I'm either being paid by the manufacturers or just exceptionally lucky. But sometimes my rolls of the dice aren't good. And this is a good example of a mixed bag that kind of leans more towards the negative, but a lot of it I consider my own fault for not doing proper research. I kind of jumped in impulsively and poorly informed. So that has a lot to do with it. I talked about how I got hardcore back into Japanese swordsmanship at the beginning of 2020 as rehab for this thing. So, I was looking for some new swords to work with, especially sparing some of my antiques for their hard use and abuse. And one of the things I was looking at was getting a Wakizashi. Now, I've had Wakizashis in the past, and they've been like Spanish-made quality, and I've talked about those swords in other episodes and how, yeah, they're just not good and very badly balanced and terrible steel and plastic handles and all that stuff. So I've gotten rid of them. But one of the things I was also never terribly pleased with about a Wakizashi is, even though it's part of my traditional practice, is just the way they're shaped. Short handles and things just never appeal to me, even though that's traditional. So something caught my eye as I was surfing, and it was this particular offering, which they called a Wakizashi. And I found this on Amazon from a seller known as Handmade Swords. So it's Handmade Sword from Handmade Swords. They're pretty popular on Amazon. They have a lot of listings, and they also have their own website. And they have some very interesting offerings that look like they're really good quality and usually get pretty good reviews. But this one, yeah, again, part of it's me, but part of it I feel the seller did a little misleading. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about value for the money. Now, it's not really a Wakizashi. It's kind of halfway between a Wakizashi and a Ninjato. So you've got a 9.5-inch handle and a 21-inch blade. So it does have some good parts. I mean, it's not all bad. So let's kind of talk about that. The scabbard, it's just a basic piano lacquer, but at least they went to the trouble of tapering it. So even though it's a straight scabbard saya, you can easily tell by grabbing it which side's up. It's got brass shitadome and the kuragata, basic cotton sugeo. It's leftover ito. But let's take a look at the Suka. This is what caught my eye. This is where the impulse buy came in. So cotton wrapping, tight, reasonably well done. Over real same panels. It is a double pin, but the fixtures are this really solid blackened brass. They're really nice. The Fuchi and the Kashira and the Manuki, which are all just well done. And then you've got this Hamadachi Tsuba, which is a solid piece of metal, solid brass. So very interesting. It's quite a wide Fuchi collar too. So it gives it some interesting dynamics in the hand. So that's all good. What's not good? Yeah. Here's where it gets a little bit wonky. Now, what you've got kind of looks like a Ninjato. Like I said, 21-inch blade. It's got a fuller. It's pretty solid. It's pretty thick, especially towards the hibaki. It's got a nice distal taper, so balance in the hand. It's got some decent weight to it, but it's got a good balance, so it's a very maneuverable sword. But what's my fault? Okay, so not doing enough research when I started looking at current generation reproductions. This sword is advertised as being 1045 carbon steel. Now, 1045 is considered the lowest end of carbon steel for appropriateness of making a sword out of. And it's known for being just easy to work. So this is the kind of steel you're going to find in a $50 to $60 katana from some of these makers. And those are good for show, and they're also good for martial artists who just do things like kata. And they're not going to put it to a whole lot of abuse. Now, it's also a reasonable steel if you're going to do some basic backyard cuttings, light, soft targets, and you're not terribly worried about what happens to the blade, whether it's scratches or chips or bends or whatever. For $50 or $60, that's not a bad thing. But this isn't a $50 or $60 sword. I did get it on sale, but the normal retail price, which is actually what it's back at now, is $125. And I find that as a common theme in handmade brand swords. They do tend to be more expensive than a lot of other offerings. And for $125, you can get a nice Musashi Silver Series or Ryujin sword that's 1060 and clay tempered. Now this is also where it gets a little bit irritating. Can't really see it in my lighting very well, but it looks like it has a hamon on it. And initially, when I bought it, the website said it was clay tempered. It's not. There's also still a comment on the page, question and answer section, where someone asks about the hardness of the blade, and the seller themselves say that it's 40 spine and about a 50 edge. It's no. On close inspection, yeah, it looks like it's got that kind of cloudy edge transition line, but it's really just skillfully done with a wire brush. So the sword felt sturdy, felt sharp, and then I took it out and did a little cutting with it, and I cut a couple of milk jugs, and I cut a cardboard box, and yes, I know a cardboard box can be abrasive and scuff up your blade, but I didn't expect it to chip and deform the edge so badly after one quick session. It looked like I'd been slamming the thing into gravel after a few practice cuts with it. This edge winds up testing probably about 40. It's soft. It doesn't even pass the basic Smith's file test. Anything will bite into and deform this steel. So I know one of the things that I'd complained about in a previous video was discovering my Kawashima katana that was supposed to be clay tempered wasn't clay tempered, and being really upset about that. But at least that sword I feel is like a 1060 steel, and it's taken some damage in cutting, but it's held up pretty well. But this one, after one session, I mean, one of the reasons why you can't see the hamon very well in my video is it's scuffed just all over from soft targets, and there's chips and gouges in the blade, and yeah, it just So for $125, you know, if it was a $50 sword, I wouldn't be terribly upset about it. But you know, $125, you could do so much better. Now, on the upside, I mean, the suka and the fittings are really nice, so maybe I'll do something with it. Put a different blade in the fittings or something like that. I don't know, but you know, it might be project parts for later, so it's not a total loss. But yeah. Now I've seen a lot of good reviews about Handmade, so maybe their 1060 swords and their higher quality swords are actually better than this. But I did make another purchase from them, and that was a Tsuba, and the Tsuba was advertised as being an iron alloy, and what I was looking for was a replacement for this Musashi that I reviewed in another video. And there's nothing wrong with this guard structurally, but I mean, we're again talking about this is what you would otherwise get from Musashi for a $125 katana, and it's a good katana, especially good for cutting in practice because it's a 1060 clay tempered with a 55 Rockwell edge. But the Tsuba I was just not terribly pleased with, aesthetically speaking. It's kind of thin. And even though it is magnetic, so it is a ferrous alloy, steel or iron or something like that, it's just painted over. So I was looking for something heftier, and what they had on their site, according to the picture, looked heavier. But when I got it for $26, it was the exact same fixture. So obviously they're sharing sources for fixtures, and that's something I'll talk about in another video. So yeah, just sent it back. Another dent in my faith in handmade swords. So I don't know. You guys might have had better experiences with handmade. Please let me know in the comments. Make some recommendations for some other things I might look into in the future. But for now, I'm definitely reluctant to buy anything else from them again, especially when there's so much better competition out there. So that's just my experience. I hope you found this interesting, entertaining, and I hope to see you again.